All right, so let's go ahead and go right into my um what's it called program. So first of all, my name is George Elassal, and I've created a multiplicative and additive persistence and root calculator. So the first thing I do is create a variable called num0, standing for number, and then I define the function getInput, which is going to call this num0, and it's going to ask the user for an integer, and it tells them that if it's a negative integer, it's going to quit. It's going to return the num, and we're going to use this later for an equality statement, if statement. So then we're going to define the function multiply, which is going to take one argument, which is num1, and we're going to put num in here later. So I define the variable y equals 1, z equals num1, and x equals 0. So I made it so while a length of string z, which is length of num1, is not equal to 1. So that's going to pretty much count the digits in z in num1. So it's not going to stop until there's one digit left. And here we redefine y equals 1 just for the loop. And then I say for I in string z, it's going to take one of the first digit in string z, and it's going to be y equals y times integer I, which for the first number, it would be 1 times in the first digit. So that is why we choose y equals 1. And then z is going to equal to y, and x is going to be equal to x plus 1. And x is going to start at 0. So this is going to count how many loops we've done. Going to count like the persistence, while z is going to be equal to the product. And that's one. So we're going to print z every single time we go through a loop. And what this is going to do is when z is equal to y, this up here will change. And so until this function, until this for loop creates a variable that has a length of 1 digit, this whole thing is going to continue. And when this while loop is completed, we're going to return string z and string x. And then this add function is pretty much the same, except y is equal to 0, so that it's going to, this equation is going to be 0 plus the first digit in the very beginning, so it doesn't mess it up, right? And another thing I changed is just this is going to be sum. Oh, and the equation is not times anymore, it's plus, just so we can get a sum instead. And then we define our main function. So we start with a while true, which is going to create a loop that is only broken if, what's it called? And this get input function returns a negative variable. If it does, we're going to get this message and it's going to break. If it doesn't, it's going to print multiplicative loop at a space, and it's going to get these, make these variables mz mx equal to string z and string x, and it's going to print this as many times as we need to. Oh, by the way, get input, it will take the an input as well. We already know that. And then the additive loop, same thing as the multiplicative loop. And then here, it's going to print these variables that we took here. And then after that, it's going to go back to the while true, and it's going to start asking for another input, and it'll keep continuing until you get a negative one. And the main function just calls this, which calls everything else. And I'll go ahead and show some tests. So let's say 1, 2, 3, 4 is a variable plugin. It's going to do 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4, and that is equal to 10. 1 plus 0 is equal to 1. That's a persistence of 2 and a root of 1. It's going to do 1 times 2 times 3 times 4, which is 24. And then 2 times 4 is 8. And there we go. And that's a persistence of 2 and a root of 8. And then we'll say 999. See, it asked us again. It went through the while loop again. and it asked us to input another number. So we did it. And now it's gonna go ahead and go through it again, ask us for another number. If we plug it in negative, it's going to end the code. And one more thing I want to show is that I noticed this, and I think it's how it's supposed to be. Even if you plug in a super huge number, if it has a 0 in it, it's going to give you a product of 0 and a persistence of 1, with the root of 1. Because even though there's a lot of numbers, all of them multiplied by 0 once is going to give you a 0 number. And that's all to say. Thank you guys for listening.